Hey there, welcome back to Am I Tesla Guy. Thank you so much for coming back for another video. I really appreciate all the comments we got on the last video. If you didn't get a chance to see that, it has to do with my one struggle with my Model 3 Standard Range Plus. And if you did not see it, I will put a little link up here somewhere. I will warn you, I want to be fair. The title comes off as a little bit clickbaity. I apologize. I will not do that again. It is clear that people did not like that because I got the most thumbs down of any video I've ever done on this channel or our family channel. My apologies to all of you. I will work hard to not do that again and hopefully bring you content that you actually like. So I thought with this video, I would talk about the number one question that I am asked, and that is why with getting the Model 3 I decided to go with the Standard Range Plus option. If you followed some of the videos, you know that I was a bit torn on whether I should do a used Model S because I really like how the Model S looks. Not that I dislike how the Model 3 looks, I just really like how the Model S looks. Or a new or newer Model 3. If you did not get a chance to watch that video where I weigh, at least for me, the pros and cons of each, I will put that link in the description of this video down below, so feel free to go watch that. Let me know your thoughts on that as well. But since I've got the Model 3 Standard Range Plus version of it, the number one question I've had is why did you get that model? It is as base as you can get on menu. There is the off menu standard range, but it's the lowest you can get. We're in Michigan. Thus, am I Tesla Guy? You know, it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle, all that fun stuff. So I thought what we do is we would start by talking about what are the differences between the Standard Range Plus and the long-range all-wheel drive. The only other version I would consider, at least at this point. We're not going to talk about the performance in this video just because we're not going to. So let's get into it and start by visiting what is different between the Standard Range Plus and the long-range all-wheel drive Model 3. All right, so thinking about the things that are different. Oh, sorry, getting in the car here. No, not my Tesla. That's a different story for a different video. Seatbelt, safety first. Let's just go ahead and get the top two out of the way as far as the differences between these two models of Model 3. The first, and likely most obvious difference, is the difference in range. Currently, the Standard Range Plus has a rated range of 250 miles, and the long range all-wheel drive has a range of 322 miles. That's not a shabby difference. That is 72 miles difference. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to run through the differences, and then I'm going to circle back. We'll talk about each of them. The second biggest difference is one is rear wheel drive, the Standard Range Plus is, and the other one is all-wheel drive. That is a pretty significant difference. There are many things that come from that. Speed is one of them. Arguably traction, talking a bit about how that can be addressed with the Standard Range Plus. And I think for a lot of people, those differences are pretty huge. The idea of 72 miles more, at least of rated range, and all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. And there was one more item. I would say it's a big one, and I would say you're probably surprised I didn't include it in the first two, and that is price. There is currently a $9,000 difference between the Standard Range Plus and the long-range all-wheel drive. That's a pretty significant consideration. You're probably surprised I didn't include that up in the first two big items, but that's because those items had to do with the car itself. So a feature or a stat or something for the car itself. But yes, the third big item would be price. So getting those three big ones out of the way, let's take a look at some of the other differences. I'm not saying they're minor, but they're not as big as those first three. All right, so among the not top two or three, depending on what you consider them, probably should have said it was the top three big ones. First up would be the 0 to 60 time. And I'm going to go with Tesla published times for this because I've actually seen some lower times on YouTube and things, but we're going to go with Tesla published times from their website. So the Standard Range Plus has a 0 to 60 of 5.3 seconds. And the long-range all-wheel drive has a 0 to 60 time of 4.4 seconds. So there's a decent difference there, almost a second. The next one also has to do with speed. Let's keep speed together, and that is the top speed. The Standard Range Plus currently has a published top speed of 140 miles an hour, and the Long Range All-Wheel Drive currently has a published top speed of 145 miles an hour. Get an extra 5 miles an hour there. All right, next on the list of not quite as major things would be that the Long Range All-Wheel Drive has a premium interior, and the Standard Range Plus has a partial premium interior. Now, what do those mean? I'm going to show you right now. Get some screenshots of the Tesla website here. The premium interior has 14 speakers, a subwoofer, and 2 amps as far as the audio system goes. It also has 1 year of premium connectivity. It has LED fog lamps. It has interior floor mats as well. So the Standard Range Plus does not have 14 speakers, a subwoofer, and 2 amps. Definitely know it doesn't have a subwoofer. I don't know how many speakers. You can watch some of the videos on YouTube, and some people think that the speakers are still there. They're just software locked and not available. You've got other people who are rather confident that at least some of the speakers are actually physically not there. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that stuff out. So you can feel free to, I guess, search for videos on that if you're curious to know that much more about it. The Standard Range Plus is going to come with 30 days of premium connectivity. The Standard Range Plus does not have LED fog lights. I do like fog lights. I will say I do. Our other car has that. But how often do I really use them? Actually, I think about it, I don't use them much. But the Standard Range Plus, it doesn't have the fog lights, but it has these interesting, I'll try to put a picture in here right now, or an overlay or something. It has almost like, not running lights, because the running lights are up above there, but almost like a turn signal style orange, just little bit of an outline around it, but not fog lights. And the Standard Range Plus does not have interior floor mats. That just seems a little trivial. So there you go. There are what I consider the big differences, and then some of what I would consider the not as big differences, although for everybody's different. I mean, what may seem big or small to me may not seem big or small to you. But now that we've outlined all those differences, let's talk about how did we make the decision to go with the Standard Range Plus. Well, with that as a background, let's cut right to the chase. The reason we ended up getting a Standard Range Plus is we felt it was the best bang for the buck. Obviously, I'm going to talk more about why we determined that. To summarize, that's why we felt it was the best bang for the buck. Now, let's take a look at each of the items that I mentioned about being different between the two cars. I'm going to try to go in the same order that I talked through them. So first up would be the rated range. Like I mentioned, Long Range All-Wheel Drive puts you up 322 miles. Standard Range Plus, we've got 250 miles. We really don't travel that often, at least not as far as any kind of appreciable distance. My commute to work is probably 6 or 7 miles each direction on a daily basis, and my wife, she's got probably 20-25 mile drive each direction, and we knew we were going to charge at home. I know they always say get the most range that you can afford, but for the price difference, I just didn't think we needed the extra miles. Now, I may very well come to regret that. But we drove it back from Indianapolis. I mean, that was a 4-hour trip, and we ended up stopping twice to supercharge, and we really didn't need to. I just like to stop more frequently and charge for a shorter period of time. That's just my preference. And I don't think either time we stopped any longer than 15 minutes. You know, I take that back. We did stop for 20 minutes the second time, but that's because we went into a Panera to get beverages, and there was a bit of a line. We didn't need to wait for 20 minutes. It only needed to charge for 15, but we didn't get it back out there for 20 minutes. And I know that 4 hours, that's not a long trip by any means, but we really don't. I mean, if we go much farther than 6 hours, we're flying, usually. So I didn't really see a need for it. And I know this is probably a horrible thing to say, but our other vehicle, it is a typical gasoline car, and if we really needed to, we could take that car instead. Although I prefer not to, because I absolutely love this car and I love autopilot. All right, moving on to the second item. All-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. Oh, I'm going to admit this one was harder for me. I have been driving an all-wheel drive vehicle for 2.5 years now, but there were two things that made me not quite as concerned about it. And again, it kind of came down to a cost-benefit analysis. The first thing is I do plan on getting winter tires, and it's been a long time since I've had winter tires on a vehicle, and everything I've heard about them is, oh man, with winter tires, you're going to have no problem at all. I've talked with several Standard Range Plus owners in Michigan, and they've all said that. One said they didn't even really have any trouble just using the all seasons. I don't intend to test that theory out. I do plan on getting winter tires. And although it's not necessarily good from a performance standpoint, if you really like to throw your Model 3 around, I do hear that because of how electric motors work, the traction control in the winter and on the snow, it's actually pretty good. I mean, you're not just going to sit there and spin your wheels or something like that. That's ultimately why we did it. Cost-benefit analysis, and the fact that I asked a bunch of people who had Standard Range Plus and had dealt with the snow, and they said so long as you get snow tires, you should have no problems, even in Michigan. And then that third item that I mentioned, the third potential big item, and I should say it is a big item. It is a massive item. I just didn't consider it something specific about the car, and that is the price differential. You're talking $9,000 more. This is not an insignificant amount of money. That's a big jump in my book. It could be just my frame of reference, but the $9,000, that was a huge jump. And we really didn't feel it was worth it for what we were getting. For us, could be completely different for you, but we didn't feel it was worth it for us and where we're typically driving and how we're typically driving and all of that. Now, let's get into some of the, what I would consider smaller items. Next up. 0 to 60 time, 4.4 seconds versus 5.3. I love quick cars. I like speed too, but I don't really speed, and I don't want a ticket. But there's a speed limit. There is no limit on how quickly you get to that speed, so long as you're not driving recklessly. So I like to go quick, up to the speed limit. I've ridden in a Model 3 dual motor, and I have ridden in a Model 3 dual motor with performance boost, and you can tell the difference. I will admit that. You can tell the difference. But I really wanted to get a Tesla. And just that performance was not enough, given the vehicles I was coming from. 5.3 seconds is not slow. It's not even close to slow. And what I have found since I got it is once you're up to about 30, 35 miles an hour, it's not that much slower than the all-wheel drive. Once you get to like 35 miles an hour, you nail it and it will slam you back in your seat. So, cost benefit? Yes. Oh, I'd love it to go 4.4 or even better. However, it wasn't enough to overcome that price difference. Now, the next one is perhaps the easiest, and that is top speed. 140 miles an hour versus 145 miles an hour. That didn't even play into the equation. I'm never going to see that speed anyway. I don't really care. So there you go. That's a short one. And next up is the whole partial premium interior versus premium interior. And there were a couple things in this that I actually thought about. I do like music. I do find myself listening to music quite a bit, and I appreciate a good sound system. However, I'm not a huge audiophile. And after hearing the audio in a Standard Range Plus, I decided it was more than sufficient for what I needed. It's not bad. When you can compare it against the premium interior with that immersive sound or whatever they call it, yeah, you can tell the difference. But if you compare it to other vehicles that we would consider and that we would look at and that we've had, it's still way better than what we've had. So that one, again, cost benefit. The benefit definitely did not outweigh the cost on that one. Interestingly enough, I really like having fog lights. I think they look cool when they're on, but that was not any kind of a determining factor either. Floor mats don't even matter to me because the first thing I do when I get a car is I order a nice set of all-weather mats. In this case, I ordered the ones from Tasmanian, and I will put a link in the description down below to the ones that I ordered. So floor mats, I don't care about. Now, there's like some differences in like puddle lights and footwell lights and things like that. Again, doesn't really matter to me. Now, again, this is just me. It may matter to you. Maybe you want it. Maybe you are an audio person and you just want that unbelievable audio experience. Go for it. It may be worth it. You're also getting all the other benefits of the long-range all-wheel drive. And then the 1-year premium connectivity versus the 30 days of premium connectivity. I actually like this difference because it's an objective difference. I can put a dollar amount on it. The dollar amount is $120 of free connectivity versus $10. So there's a $110 difference. That's not a lot relative to a difference in price of $9,000. So that's really why the premium interior over the partial premium interior did not really carry much weight for me in the decision-making process. All right, well, there you have it. All the reasons that we ended up getting a Standard Range Plus instead of a Long-Range All-Wheel Drive Model 3. What do you think? Did we make the right decision? I know there's a lot of people out there who say range is king and you should get as much range as humanly possible. Are we going to regret it this winter? I don't know. Drop me your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you haven't already, please subscribe by clicking the subscribe button down below. And if you got some value out of this video, please throw me a thumbs up. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks for watching Am I Tesla Guy?